All right, welcome everybody who's tuning into the Wealth.com and Zocks webinar today. So we've got some really good content for you, and we're really going to be focusing on the new Zocks and Wealth.com integration that we're announcing and launching. So before we get into any of the real content, just a couple of housekeeping items. The first one is this webinar will be recorded, so if you want to share the webinar recording with any of your colleagues, if they weren't able to attend, or if you just want to watch it again because you love hearing about integration so much, you are going to be able to do that at the end. And the second piece is we'd love to make this as engaging as possible. Webinars are less fun when it's just us talking about things. We'd love to get some engagement from you guys in terms of questions that you have about either Wealth.com or about Zocks or the integration as a whole. So please drop any questions that you've got into the Q&A section. And if they're relevant at about something that we're talking about in the moment and we catch it, we will answer it in the moment. Otherwise, we'll do some Q&A at the end. So to kick things off, my name is Gus Merrill. I'm on the product team at Wealth.com, and I've had the great pleasure of working with Jim very closely over at Zocks to define and build this integration based on how we think it's going to be most helpful to the advisors. And so as we sort of kick things off, we're here to kind of talk about the integration. This is mostly going to be a demo of the integration, but just to give you some context about Wealth.com, if you are coming into this webinar not super familiar, when you look at the estate planning landscape today, Wealth.com is really the clear leader in the estate planning industry, and we don't think of ourselves as just another tech tool. We see ourselves as the only platform that's in the entire space that has been fully vetted and approved across all three of the nation's largest broker-dealers, LPL Financial, Osaic, and Cetera. And so we see that as a massive distinction because it means we've met the highest standards for security compliance and advisor workflows. And beyond that, we're backed by some of the global financial powerhouses like Charles Schwab, Citi Ventures, and Google Ventures. And we were named the top estate planning technology of 2025 by wealthmanagement.com. So when you are choosing to work with wealth.com for your estate planning needs, you're really choosing the industry standard. And to that extent, more than 2,000 firms have chosen to work with wealth.com as their preferred estate planning partners. And the advisors who do work with Wealth have seen a 2.2x growth in AUM over just 18 months. We help you get more visibility into your client's total balance sheet because the total balance sheet is needed when you go into and start planning for their estate and how money will be distributed to beneficiaries. So, the estate planning is a really powerful way to guide the conversation with your clients to help you understand their full financial picture. And, for those of you who serve high net worth and ultra high net worth clients, Wealth.com helps you save over 40 hours per estate plan for those more complex clients that you work with, allowing you to scale your business without scaling the overhead that might be involved in hiring additional staff to sort through these complex legal documents. So we have two sort of offerings. One is on the an analysis side where our legal assistant, our AI legal assistant, Esther, advisors have already used Esther to process over 150,000 documents, giving you a level of technical sophistication that is, as Jamie Hopkins puts it, clearly superior to any other offering. And for those of you who are serving sort of the mass affluent category of clients, most of you will be using the document preparation side of our tool, and to date, over 100,000 estate plans have been created with a really strong 94% completion rate. So we can move those clients who you're talking to, who you say, we'll get to this next meeting or next year. We really move them from intent to execution. And really, where the reason why so many firms have confidently chosen to work with Wealth.com is because we understand where the industry is heading. And that really gets into this concept of clients expecting holistic planning. They want you, the advisor, to be able to see the full picture of their wealth, their life, their legacy. And so in today's market, we really see estate and tax planning not as add-ons or nice to haves for advisors and their offerings, but they're a core part of the promise that you make to your clients. And so, we're really proud to provide, one platform that makes that promise simpler, faster, and clearer to deliver. So, like I said, most of today will be about the Zocks integration. So, Jim, I'd like to turn it over to you to introduce yourself and kick things off.
Fantastic. Gus, thank you so much, and couldn't agree more. Just the getting to know you and the team and the engineering team over the last 2 months, and just what a world-class organization all of the Wealth.com folks are. And it's just it's a start of a great partnership. And I think we'll have a lot to show today, which I'm excited about. But this is just the beginning. We're really open to feedback. We've already collected some feedback that we've shared with Gus and team on what a V2 could look like. And so there's a lot that we can do through both integrating the two platforms and leveraging AI. So really excited to be here and really thankful for you guys putting this on, hosting it, and promoting it for us. So I'm Jim Hardiman, EVP of Product here at Zocks. In addition to a number of hats that I wear, partnerships and strategic initiatives around these partnerships is core of my day to day. And so I will be walking us through and looking at a couple different use cases for how we're integrated with the Wealth.com platform. If you're unfamiliar with Zocks, we're an AI assistant that's built specifically for financial advisors. We launched a little over 2 years ago. We currently have about 3,500 firms on the platform, and we're processing thousands and thousands of conversations every day. And we're starting to extend into a number of additional workflows. It's been really satisfying, the growth that we've had over the last 2 years, and certainly some of the industry recognition that we've had from KITS's, from the Oasis Group, and from the Ezra Group. And we were most recently just named a top solution on G2. So we work with a number of very large RIAs, broker dealers, an increasing number of tax and insurance, and also estate planning specialists. And so, but this is the only industry that we're focused on, and we're growing, as I said, quite rapidly. And integrations is really core to our strategy. I think, for us, and I think the Wealth.com team would totally agree that, we believe firmly that advisors would rather spend more time with their clients, having deeper, engaging conversations, doing more planning, and just providing more services and doing a whole lot less manual work. And so, what we see in looking across our clients prior to using Zocks, a lot of people are spending anywhere from 45 minutes to 60 minutes an hour, either pre and during and post meetings. So getting ready to meet with a client, obviously taking notes, and then updating systems, doing data entry and things like that after meetings. You get a lot of emails. So I'm going to show how you can use Zocks today to help you answer emails more efficiently. And just the time that it takes to manually keep systems up to date, doing manual data entry, filling out forms, all of that can be a momentum killer. And so we're going to show how the Zocks plus Wealth.com integration can help really turbocharge a lot of those processes in your day to day. I'm going to show a number of different aspects to Zocks. I think most people know us from our meeting assistant, our ability to take notes during live meetings, phone conversations, virtual meetings. But I'm going to show a number of other capabilities on the platform. So we'll look at things like meeting prep. We'll look at data integration and filling out forms. We'll take a look at our email automation and how we work with Wealth to utilize data in their system. And so we'll show a number of different capabilities beyond just our basic note taking. Some unique aspects to Zocks, we're what's called a no recording solution. So what we do is live transcription. So there is no audio or video file as an artifact after a meeting has been processed. We're doing live transcription. So what you end up with is a transcript as well as the meeting notes that are pulled out of that transcript. And then you have some capabilities to either archive and supervise that transcript or delete them on a schedule over time. So quite unique in that case. We're really well known for our data security, privacy, and compliance capabilities. and our accuracy for doing transcription and speaker attribution. That's one of the notes that we had from the Oasis group on the accuracy that we have for multi-party speaker identification and transcription. So specifically for the Zocks and Wealth.com integration, there's a couple key areas that we'll highlight today. One is I'll show you coming out of a conversation with a client that has expressed interest in getting started with some estate planning. So to Gus's point earlier, the mass affluent, someone who needs to establish maybe a will, a trust, guardianship, and whatnot with their family. So we'll take a look at how you can easily do that by creating that client and wealth and getting them invited into the portal. I'll also show the ability for us to prepare for a meeting. So if the client that you've been working with and you've done some analysis with Esther or other, if you've uploaded or established ever other documents or trusts on the platform, we'll pull that detail into meeting prep. And then we'll do some things around email and just an ad hoc query from the Zocks platform into wealth.com. All of these integrations are really designed to really streamline the process, to cut down on the manual data entry, the manual updates, and the time it takes to look things up and to research, and to be able to do that right within the Zocks platform. So with that, I'm going to ask Gabby, I'm going to share my screen, Gabby, if you can turn off the slides and we'll jump into the demo. Oh, you did it for me. Thank you. Let me do that again. Perfect. Okay. So as I mentioned, this is Zocks, and so as I mentioned, the best way to get started is if you're an existing Zocks and Wealth customer, and you want to know how to get started and connect the two. Maybe you're a Wealth.com user and you sign up for a free trial with Zocks. The first thing you're going to want to do is come into this integrations page here, and this is where you're going to start connecting Zocks to the different tools that you use. So as I mentioned, you can use Zocks with virtual meetings for face-to-face. We have iOS and Android apps, but you can also use Zocks with phone calls. So this is where you would connect to your meeting platforms. We can also connect to your calendar. So that helps us inform things like meeting prep and running our meeting prep on a schedule in time for meeting with your clients. You can connect it to your email. That if you connect it to your email, it can become a source of information, a source of tasks, a source of data that can be utilized by Zocks. If you are doing planning, we also integrate with eMoney and Right Capital, with several other ones in the works. We integrate with Hostaplan. And then, of course, with our new integration with wealth.com, this is where you're going to connect. I'm already connected to Wealth, obviously, for this demo, but there should be a connect button here. You're going to click on that, and that's going to prompt you for your username and password to get your accounts connected together. Once you get connected to the Wealth platform, I'd also recommend checking out our help file here. So we actually have a whole tutorial on how to use the integration and how to get yourself connected. So it'll walk you through what I just showed here, shows you how to link your accounts, how to utilize synchronize your connections or your contacts, and then how do you use it for meeting prep, for instance. And it even gives you some suggestions on some of the prompts that you can add to your meeting prep template. So it ensures that it's pulling the right information from wealth.com as part of that process. So I highly recommend being able to utilize that capability. So back to Zocks here. So the first use case that I want to show off is, as I mentioned, we have a mass affluent client couple here that we met with. So we've met with the Williams, Michael and Jennifer William. We've done a discovery call. So Zocks attended the meeting that we had. It took notes in the background, it transcribed, and then it generated a meeting summary. These meeting summaries can be totally template driven. So I've got a number of different templates here. You can have different types of templates that all match the types of meetings that you're having with clients. We have out of the box system templates, but you can also create your own. So this is an example of one that I've created just with best practices and things we've learned from working with other customers. So it's at the information you'll see here, we'll capture the date and timestamp, who was in that meeting. We'll do a sentiment analysis. You can drill down into the sentiment analysis for those clients and look at particular topics. We'll also do a scorecard on this meeting. So there's about 18 different metrics that we can score on, and you can also customize this. So if you're looking at how well you worked with a client, followed an agenda, the types of engaging questions you've had, working on next steps, uncovering needs, things of that nature, you can get a scorecard here. And then it ultimately comes down to summarizing that conversation. So in this case, we know that the client accepted the use of Zocks for the meeting, so they were in approval of using Zocks for the transcription. And then we've captured details about the conversation. So in this case, we've captured what was the meeting purpose. Since this was a discovery call, so a new prospect, there's a lot of data that we uncovered around birth dates, how long they've been married, what their the children's names are and birth dates, even a home address here, some details around what they do for occupation, hobbies, interests, and then the things that really drive financial planning, everything around money, so income, assets, investments, and insurance. You can see that detail was captured here. We've captured things like liabilities, and then we've captured for their financial goals and priorities. And so, one of their goals was to address their estate planning needs for guardianship. They've got young children, to create a will and establish trusts. And then here's the details about each of the goals and the areas that they want to address as part of the engagement, including the estate planning discussion. If you look here, we also captured a follow-up email when we'll meet with the client again. So all that details gets brought in. We'll also recap the conversation and generate a follow-up email that you can send to the client. In this case, we captured that there's a task to send invites for what discussion. All of that is also template driven, so you can utilize emails that you typically send to clients, and you can mimic your tone and style. And then one of those tasks again is to invite them to wealth.com. So rather than syncing this to your CRM and creating a wealth.com task in your CRM through the integration, we're just going to do that directly here from this meeting. So because I'm connected to wealth.com, I'm going to go ahead and click on that. And you can see over here in wealth, I'll share this tab here. You can see that over here, I've got a couple clients set up in the portal here. And so coming back to Zocks here, what I want to do is I want to create a new contact in wealth, and also want to send an invitation so that the Williams can get started and start working on those documents. And I'm going to go ahead and hit continue. So what this is doing is it's taking a look at the possibilities of what we can push over to wealth.com. It's also analyzing the transcript and the notes that we just captured. And you can see here that because we had caught, things like email address, their address, the fact that they have children, the fact that they are married, all of that comes in. And then they don't really have an existing estate plan, so it really wasn't deeply discussed. But you can also just say no estate plan if you want to override that. You can pick and choose by clicking and deselecting anything here that you don't want to push over. In this case, we're just going to go ahead and send all of that information over to Wealth. So it takes a second to publish that information over. And you can see here that it's completed. And we'll jump over here. You can see, and I'll refresh my screen here, that we automatically created the client here. So you can see that we just created the Williams here, and that they've been invited to the portal. And then I've got Michael, my client here, set up with an email address, and you can see here that we've sent out the invitation for them to log into wealth.com. So nice little workflow here. So you come right out of the conversation. You note that that they are a good candidate to be work with wealth.com. So right here from that, so rather than creating a task and assigning it to somebody else in the team, pushing that to CRM, you can just do that right here from the follow up, and you can then send the follow up email letting them know that the invitation has been sent. So nice little time saver, great little workflow there. I'll pause there. Gus, just any questions that have come up that we want to address at this point?
I think that there are. I mean, there are some questions, and I think I'd like to tackle them at the end.
Okay,
There's one question, maybe that we can tackle now. Can you see the Q&A on your side?
I can. Yeah.
Yeah. So I think that first one that came in um, might be worth talking about now.
Okay. Does Zocks use previous meeting client information to collect and develop more information, or the information collected uh, in a one on a meeting by meeting basis? Great question. So actually, it's cumulative, and so as you learn more and more about the client, things like here, if I'm looking at the meetings, some of the meeting details behind the scenes, let me close the collapse here. Things like the family tree. So if we've learned about different family members over time, we'll start appending to that. We'll also, I'll actually drill up into the client themselves. So we start to build out a client profile. So you can see here, we start to learn things like around their family, occupation, recreation, and money. And you can see kind of when we start to learn that information. So as you get more and more conversations, more and more emails, if you're getting data synced from the CRM, you're making updates to the financial plan, all of this gets dynamically updated over time. So you build a richer and richer profile on the client. And then all of this can be utilized for things like meeting preparation, answering emails, filling out forms, and the like. So it is cumulative, but you do summarize one at a time. But if you go into the client itself, you can start to ask questions about the client, and that'll traverse across all the different past conversations you've had. In this case, we've only had one conversation with the client, but if you've had 3, 4, 5 meetings, you can search across those and start to look at trends and information in accumulation.
Perfect, thanks. And then one follow up to that is that if you know, how does Zocks know when to update information in Zocks? Say that they changed addresses, they moved, and
Mhm.
you're in a meeting and they say, "Hey, my new address is 123 Main Street in New York." Does that then go and update that information on the Zocks side?
Yeah, so Zox will capture that new address, but it's really up to the advisor of what systems they want to push that update to. So if they want to send it to the CRM and some other system that's connected, they can do that. And there's a wizard that you can walk through, and it'll identify where you're connected and which systems you want to push those updates into.
Cool.
But it's still kind of human in the loop. It's still up to you to decide exactly what you want pushed into those systems. We're not sending that in automatically and overriding anything. It's up to the advisor to decide.
Awesome. Let's jump back into the demo and we can tackle future questions
Fantastic.
down the road.
All right, so that's having a meeting with the client and getting them started on the Wealth platform. The next kind of workflow that I wanted to show is we've got some clients that have been they've been working in Wealth.com, the walkers here, and they've been progressing through. We had a meeting with them a while back, and now we want to get together with them and actually prepare for the next conversation. So that's here the walkers. So I've switched tabs. I'm over in my upcoming because I'm connected to my calendar. Zox looks on a rolling 2 week basis. It starts to look at meetings that you're having with particular clients that through the synchronization with your CRM or other contacts across various systems. And then it can start to bring and prepare that. And you can set up triggers. This can run, anything from 14 days in advance or up to an hour before the conversation to pull down most recent information to help you prepare for for a meeting. So we've got a meeting coming up on the 27th, so in about a week and a half, and it's automatically pulling in the clients based on the calendar invite, and it's also pulling in. And I'm going to scroll to the bottom first just to kind of show the power of this. In this case, I'm pulling from my calendar so I can look back when we've met with them in the past. I can now pull information available in Wealth. I'm connected to Redtail. I think I saw one of the questions on, do we support Redtail? So Redtail is one of our deep integrations. And then it's pulling from some other emails that we exchanges we've had with the client and helping me get prepared for this meeting. So my particular template here includes things like an agenda. So I can have some fixed items for the agenda for any of my ongoing meetings, but I can also use AI to comb through the CRM, past conversations, look at open tasks, look at wealth.com to see, where we're at, and it can dynamically build an agenda. Any of these things can be edited, deleted. You can tell the system to change or add items or modify items. So this agenda can be very dynamic in nature, and you can manually create items as well. My meeting prep summary, think of this as a one pager pulling together all the information I know about the client since the last time we met. So it'll denote, when was the last time we met? What did we talk about? This happened to be a very heavy conversation around legacy planning and estate planning. I can pull in what were the recent emails that I've had with the client over the last 90 days. It'll put together a composite of the family, what we know about them from all the different sources, and any of these little badges here. So in this case, I've got some information pulling from Redtail. I've got other information pulling from past conversations in order to give me a household overview. I'm pulling together financial summary and their goals. Specifically, estate planning again was the major topic of our last conversation, and what they want to do within preserving different property and passing along gifting. And then you can see here, I've got some information about the estate planning. And in this case, I'm pulling together, pulling from Wealth, that Frank and they went through the quiz, and the recommendation was to establish two individual revocable trusts, and we can see kind of their progress to date. So Frank and Susan have nearly completed all of the documents on the platform. We just have the pending validation, so we still need to get them notarized. But I can also see that Frank has not nearly completed his advanced health care directive. So that might be a perfect thing to talk about when they come into the office and help them to get to the finish line with that, as well as just manage the notary process. So very easy to pull this information in. Certainly, if you wanted to go in and look in more detail, you could log into the Wealth platform. But it's quite easy to pull this level of detail in and just help you remind where they're at in the process and moving the process along. We'll also pull in and suggest maybe some conversation starters. So looking at the past conversations, whether that's personal or financial, we'll give some easy kind of icebreaker starts. And then we'll also pull in all of the tasks that are still open across the various parties from the CRM. So quite easy to do a meeting prep. We hear from advisors and their staff that this can take quite a bit of time to log into multiple systems, to be able to cut and paste and copy and build like a PowerPoint or some sort of one pager, helping the advisor get ready for a meeting. This can save a huge amount of time. And the nice thing about it is all of the references are here, so you can drill into that and then jump into the Wealth platform or the CRM to look at the details. But it all should be pulled together here. And again, you can ask questions, and if the best answer is in Wealth, or the best answer is in eMoney, or it's in the CRM, we'll pull that to you, and you can use this live during a meeting as well. So this is meeting prep, but it also becomes available during a live meeting, and you can utilize this up on the screen with the clients, or we even have a Zoom plugin that this is available to as a sidebar visible to the advisor. So that would be workflow number 2. I'm going to switch to, this is workflow number 3. So we've got a client that we've done some work with, Mitch in this case, and I will, because I'm terrible at typing live, I'm going to copy here. So I can do an ask anything here. So I'm in the scope of Mitch, and I'm going to ask Zocks to go check and see how Mitch is doing on setting up his revocable trust. So again, depending on the number of connections I have to Zocks, it's going to look at what's the most appropriate place to look. It understands that this is an estate planning conversation. So if I'm connected to Wealth, it's going to go get that answer. So here, yes, Mitch has completed setting up his revocable trust. There's a record for the Mitch Kenny revocable trust. It's coming from the estate planning connection, and there's some more details about it. So great way to just on the fly. We find that a lot of people like this maybe during a live meeting. Client calls in, has a quick question. You're in Zocks, you can ask questions. And again, it will search across email, your CRM, any other connected system to answer these types of questions. So support staff really love that capability. The last workflow that I'm going to show, and I mentioned it earlier, is that you can connect Zocks to your inbox. And so in this case, I've connected Zocks to an Outlook inbox. And I've been conversing with some clients here. And the client sent me a request asking, hey, Paula and I were talking and thought we should get started on our estate planning. Can you help? I think you mentioned in our last meeting you had software that could help, and that came from Peter. So we actually capture that as a client signal. So they made a decision to do something around a goal, and all of that gets rolled back up to Peter Reynolds' profile. And so this is all information you can utilize for other use cases. But in this case, they made a decision to take action on a particular item. And I set up an estate planning request. So you can set up different different rules for different emails that are coming in. So you can prompt Zocks. In this case, I set it up that if anybody asks about an estate planning request, if I don't have them set up as a client in wealth.com, to let them know that we're going to set them up on wealth.com here and send them an invitation. I also have it checking for any future meetings. So here it says, I'll set you up with a login. You can work through this through the questionnaire and do it at your own pace. And we just to remind you, we have a meeting on the 27th at 9:30, and this is something we can review once we get back together. So I didn't have to do anything as an advisor. The client sent me an email. Zocks is monitoring my inbox. It saw that it was about estate planning. It used my template and the rules that I established for that type of email, and it automatically created a draft. You can do this all from your Outlook or your Gmail inbox. I'm just showing you here in Zocks because it's also utilizing that same reference capability. So it's looking across systems and that's how we know that we have an upcoming meeting, and it noted that as part of the email draft. You can edit any of this. You can push it to draft, or if I hit send, that send will go actually through my connected Outlook and then through any archiving that you have in your CRM. So very integrated, very easy to utilize. It didn't take me any time to go research any of this or come up with any wording here. Zocks just drafted that email. I can make it my own and hit send. If this was a very lengthy email with lots of questions or lots of extra information, those can be also tasks. So if I wanted to push that into my red tail as part of a future follow up, I can do that. So you can manage, it'll automatically find tasks that are part of the email and push those into your CRM. In this case, they asked about getting set up, and so what I'll do is I can just do like I did before. I can go ahead and set Peter up as a new client and get them invited in Wealth. And I can do all that right from my email without having to log into wealth.com, as we mentioned earlier. So it'll pull the relevant information out of the conversation here. Again, set up the profile. One of the cool things about just filling out the profile is that once Peter logs into Wealth, into the portal, they're not going to have to fill out, am I married? Who's my spouse? Things of that nature. If I had the address here, it would have put that in. So just helps the client have to, things that you already know about the client. They don't have to type that in. You can pre-fill that for them. It's quite easy to use. So we can go ahead and just get them pushed over, created, and invited. So we can look here. The Reynolds have been created, and they've also been invited to the platform. So another nice integration there. So I'm going to pause there. Gus, that's the four use cases that we've created as part of this integration. So I know we've had looks like there's been a lot of questions in Q&A. So let's switch gears and see if there's any that we can address, or maybe continue the demo if we need to jump into it.
Yeah, sounds good. So the one that I want to start off with, they're two top of mind for me. The first one is around the estate plan that is that the client is drafting. Like, should you draft one joint revocable trust? Should you draft
Yep.
two individual revocable trusts? And just to clarify for folks on the call, we take the unauthorized practice of law very seriously. We want to make sure that you guys are never in the position where you could be in breach of that. And so, just to give some additional context around how this process works on the wealth.com platform is when you invite your client to join the client portal and draft their documents, the first thing that they will do is take a sort of an assessment quiz, which asks them a variety of questions about, what is important to them. Tell us about your, sort of your life situation. Do you file jointly or separately with your spouse? What is sort of your financial picture? Basic questions like that, and then based on the answers that the client provides, our system, the wealth.com system, provides a sort of best match for their estate plan, given the answers to that question, the state of residency, things like that. Now, the important point here is that the advisor is never trying to help their client decide what documents they should be drafting. Wealth.com is providing this best match. And at any point in time, the client is able to either consult with an attorney if they have questions about that best match that was provided to them, or they're able to override that best match and choose to draft the documents that they want to draft. So there's obviously UPL is a very hot topic in estate planning, especially from the advisor's perspective. We've gone to great lengths to make sure that we're in compliance with that and making sure that everyone is above board. The other question that I wanted to jump into and get answers to is, and I think this is very forward looking and something that Jim, you and I have talked about, which is do clients even need to log into the client portal to draft their documents? Can't we just pull that information in from conversations that we have, that the advisor has with the client? And I think that there are two sides to this. One is that that's absolutely the direction that we want to go. Depending on depending on how that conversation goes with the advisor, we can, I think the plan for us is to, for wealth.com and Zocks to work together to make sure that we have, some sort of guiding set of questions that the advisor can, lead their client through and say, hey, if you need to be drafting a trust or a will, what are sort of like the big bucket items?
Right.
And the plan there, I think, is then to receive the meeting transcript from Zocks, and the wealth.com side will then process that and pre-fill to the best of our abilities into that wizard. Now, the client will still have to log into the platform. This is not a replacement for working directly with a lawyer and having the lawyer draft everything. The idea here is, how can we make it super, super simple for the clients? And so if we can do that by parsing through a conversation where the advisor is sort of leading them down the road of, here are the big things that you need to be considering when you're drafting estate planning documents, then from our side, we can pull out the relevant bits of information. And when the client logs in, the wizard might be 80% complete, and they have to fill out a few things or confirm the selections that we've made. But the client does need to be in the loop on all of this. So I don't know that we're going to get to the point with this where the client never has to log in. I think we want to avoid some of the UPL stuff on our side as well. So but the idea would be to have the advisor sort of collaborate with the client to guide them through this process, make sure they're thinking about the right things, and then wealth.com can start to parse those answers out and pre-fill some selections for the client that they would then go and confirm.
Yeah, perfect. Yeah. So I showed, kind of creating the client on the platform, inviting them, and then just sending over basic profile information. But the idea is just like you can save these notes to the CRM, we would add a button here to save to Wealth. And so you would get the full, meeting summary, or even maybe even the transcript to be able to parse that with your own Esther tool. So that would be, I think we're, looking at how to add that in the coming, couple weeks or months here. We'll pick a sprint, but yeah, I think that would also be another powerful addition.
Awesome. Are there
Looks like we
any?
have a bunch of questions on CRMs, which I wasn't
Yeah.
expecting. So let me just do that one real quick. Gus, it looks like that would knock out a number of them. So
Okay.
um, I think we've got 15 or so. So it's everything from Advisor Engine to Microsoft Dynamics, HubSpot, Practify, which is an overlay on Salesforce. I talked about Redtail. That's what I have here connected to my environment. We support all the different flavors of Salesforce, including Financial Services Cloud, straight Salesforce, all the different overlays. If you have customization in Salesforce for custom objects, you want to parse information, save them to different objects. We support very, very custom mapping on the Salesforce platform, and including Dynamics as well. Smart Office, Black Diamond, both their Salesforce versions and their Dynamics, Wealthbox, Accelerate, and Zoho. And I think there's a handful of other ones that are in the works. But if something's missing, please let us know. This typically takes us a couple weeks to add new CRMs.
Cool. Um, I'm going to jump in on a question here that is asking around the type of license needed to be able to see the Zocks integration. And I just wanted to clear up that you would initiate the connection from the Zocks side, not the wealth.com side.
That's
So
correct.
if you are not seeing the wealth.com integration on the Zocks side, that might be a question to ask the support team at Zocks. But the integration is all driven, the authentication is all driven from the Zocks platform.
That is correct. So if you're going to be using whatever your credentials are. So I'm logged in as myself here, and when I connect to Wealth, I'm going to be logging into my corresponding, Wealth account. So I saw there was a question about, can assistants, if an assistant has a full license to Zox and an assistant has a license in Wealth, then yes, you can establish that connection.
Awesome. Any others that are jumping out for you to answer here, Jim?
Let me see here. In the meeting summary, how much of that data was preloaded into systems and then just pulled into the recap versus captured during the verbal meeting? John, I think the one that I showed, if I go back to it, this was a discovery call. So this was a very first conversation. There was no information in my CRM. There was nothing in Wealth, nothing in Holistiplan or any of the other connected systems. So what you saw here was simply recapping the conversation. What I showed was you could create them directly from here right into wealth.com and get them invited, but you can do the same thing here. So like I'm connected to my CRM, in this case, Redtail. If I clicked on this, it would, just like it went through and looked at what's available to be pushed into wealth.com, it could do the same thing for eMoney or Right Capital, and in this case, CRM. So if you want to set up the clients and get them set up in Redtail and then pump in any of this detail, by clicking on that button, it'll prompt you and walk you through, and you can pick and choose what data gets pulled out of this and pushed into those systems. For the meeting prep, so the second part of your question, in that case, like here, if I'm going to meet with the Smiths, you can see here I'm pulling from a lot of information. So I'm pulling from things like eMoney, from Orion, from Redtail. If I had a plan set up in wealth.com, I could pull in from that too. So all of our integrations, I think that was one of the other questions, is everything that we do is bi-directional. So you can push you can create clients, you can update clients, you can push data into those systems. And then we also pull from those systems for things like meeting prep, answering emails, filling out forms, and other workflows.
Cool. One thing I wanted to jump in on as well was, we've talked a lot about the use case where you might be working with a mass affluent client who is just starting their estate planning process, and the ways that Zocks will help create those client profiles in Wealth.com, and then once the client actually starts drafting their documents, being able to pull back updates on how's that actually going? Are they making progress? Are there things that the
Yeah.
advisor might want to talk about them with? I did want to make sure to cover sort of the other side of things. If you're using Wealth.com to manage your some of the more complex estate plans, where your clients might already have a trust, or they already have a will, or multiple trusts set up to manage different parts of their legacy, the pre-meeting prep and that data that Zocks has access to will also cover that as well. So if your
Yeah.
client, if you've already run multiple trust documents or will documents through Esther, and Esther started to extract some of that information, we do pass back some level of information around what trust does this client already have. So you can still use this on sort of both ends of the wealth spectrum, both for the clients who are just starting out, but also for the clients who might have a more established existing estate plan that you've used Wealth.com to start to analyze.
Yeah, that's the use case I showed here with Mitch Kenny. So Mitch is set up, but he's not logged in. He's not accessing the portal. But you've used Esther to analyze and kind of start establishing documents on the portal. Zox can still get to that information and pull back the details.
Cool.
Fantastic. Looks like there's a question from Bob Nevins. So Bob's asking, does Zox act as a system of record? Um, and Bob, just so most compliance officers view Zox as these meeting summaries as working drafts, because you can edit these, and you can pick and choose what you push into your CRM, whether you send the email or not, the tasks, etc. Since think of this as your yellow pad or your Word document, this is a working draft. Most compliance officers view that once you save it to the CRM, that's actually your books and records. And we have other controls in place. So, like if I go to save it to CRM, you can have a pop up that asks, if you've reviewed the information and you realize that you're saving that into your CRM as your official record. So there's other capabilities built around that. We do have the ability to kind of set a timer for the time to live for this information. So some firms will keep it for 7 years, others keep it for 30 days. We have one firm that gives advisors 24 hours to be able to review their notes, save it to their CRM before it gets deleted off of our platform. So you can run the gamut for the different controls that we have, but we're not considered a system of record. This isn't a worm, type storage. That would be, another system that you would be using as your official books and records. All right, let's see. How dynamic are the forms? When interviewing my clients, I want to make sure I collect information that is specific to my advisory. Can I customize them? So, great question, James. Yes, so you have full control over building your meeting types, your email types. I didn't show documents today, but you can also analyze documents, and Zox will pull information out of uploaded documents. So you have full control over building meetings. So the template that I was showing here. So if I do a meeting, if I look at the meeting summary, you can see here that it's based on some simple prompting. So I'm pulling in things like who was in the meeting, what was the platform, date and timestamp, things of that nature. And then I'm very much custom building. These brackets indicate prompts that go to the engine. So it's telling what to pull out of the conversation. So if you've got very specific, a discovery template, a plan presentation, a plan implementation, portfolio review, whatever you have as part of your cadence and working with clients, you can set up meetings for each one of those types. And based on that type, you can define kind of what information you want to pull out of the conversation and how you want that organized. You want it concise, you want it verbose, you want it bullet points, paragraphs, what have you. And it can be very dynamic. So, like back to this summary here, like I gave it, what's the first major discussion point? investment strategy, cash flow planning versus second. All of this tells the engine that it's dynamic. And so just to pull out, kind of five major topics covered, and it can be very dynamic to exactly what you talk about in that conversation, but it follows a very set routine for how you want that information organized. Fantastic. Gus, I think that's there's somebody had a question about our tech support. Yes, we do have live support. We have you can schedule, you can chat with us. Obviously, there's an email, but there's also, if you need some escalation, you can ask to set up a time to talk to somebody in our support. We also have account management teams and implementation managers that are also available to help with some of these templates and other things that I showed today. But yes, we do provide live support, and happy to do it.
And the same goes for the wealth.com side as well. So we've got all modes of support that you guys want. So if you guys have questions about the integration or any other parts of the platform, the chat or email support will be made accessible for that, and we'll make sure that you guys get sorted out.
Fantastic. Yeah, and I think we had one more follow-up slide to kind of close out. If we could, Gus or Gabby. So a couple things here. I saw there was a couple questions on just the differences between the plans, and so you can kind of see here on this screen. We also have, it's on our website. It's also in the product. We do have a 14-day free trial, so it's quite easy to try Zocks and see. And part of that, you can get a check-in call with somebody from our team that can help you with setup and optimization. Our essentials plan, as well as our professionals plan, can do everything I showed you today. Take notes. It can create in wealth.com. It can do everything except for the email reply. So that's the only thing that would be unique to the Ultimate plan here. So you can see here that Ultimate helps you with email replies as well as document intelligence. But everything else I showed you for meeting notes, meeting prep, ask anything, and the synchronization and connection to wealth, all that can be done on both our essentials and professional plan. If you'd like to book a demo with the team, you can certainly go to our website and sign up for a self-service get started for 14-day free trial. But if you'd like a demo for you or your team, or you have some other questions on some of the things I maybe didn't cover today, or you have some specific questions around things like Salesforce, happy to book a demo. That QR code there is available. There's a calendar capability that you can pick a time that's convenient for you, and we've got 25 people that are willing to jump on and give you a quick demo. And then for those that are using Zocks and Wealth, and you've been maybe using it for a period of time, I would also encourage you to check out our Academy. That's actually in the lower left-hand corner of the Zocks application. There's some great tutorials there. We just launched that back in December, but there's a full university kind of tutorial program that you can go from Zocks 101 to 201 to 301, and it can really help you optimize Zocks to really get the most out of it for your practice. So I'd encourage you to check that out as well. And I think that's it. Gus?
All right, back on stage now. Thanks again for taking some time, Jim, to share the demo and talk a little bit more about Zocks. Obviously, we are super excited and committed to making sure that this is a world-class integration and partnership between our companies. For all the folks who tuned in, we appreciate you taking some time out of your days to learn a little bit more about where this integration is ultimately heading. Like I said at the beginning, this webinar has been recorded. It will be shared out to you guys after the fact. And with that, we thank you guys once again. And Jim, great having you on today.
Thanks, Gus. Thank you, everyone. Appreciate it. Have a great day.